Alrighty. To welcome everyone to this presentation of Consciousness Ascending. We are live once again on, what's today? Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025. This is episode 72. Episode 72 of Accelerating Your Journey. My name is Benny Ferguson. I channel the non-physical collective known as Abraham. I've been channeling for over a decade now. And we're excited to be here. We're excited to be here. We're excited to be of support. But our main goal is to accelerate the process, to be there for you and assist you in accelerating the process. Hey, Sonia. Accelerating the process, speeding up the process. Yes, you can do that. But it requires a focus. It requires knowing exactly where you should play when it comes to this journey of enlightenment. And the truth is, the gathering of knowledge, resources, all of those things is not first position. Once you know, it's not first position. First position is understanding that you can change your frequency and change your mind. That's first position. Once you know that, that can be, we suggest be, the priority, because that's what changes your state of being. And your state of being is what's first calls to your creations. It's what's first calls to the allowing in of information. Understand, when you're bringing in information, hello. When you're bringing in information, you're not always ready for it. You come in contact with information, you come in contact with new knowledge, but you're not always ready for it. It's not always able to integrate into your being fully, because there's requisite experience to catching up with that knowledge. I bought a book, The Power of Focus, long time ago, when I first was getting on this path. When I first was on this path and I knew I was on the path. The Power of Focus, can't remember the author. I still have the books, I still have all of my books. But I knew I was supposed to get it. I knew I was supposed to get the book. And I purchased the book. It came. I read the first couple of pages. Hello. I read the first couple of pages, and then that was it. That was it. It was on the shelf. A year later, I found the book. I picked it up, and I read it all the way through. The markings, the highlightings, all of those things. Read it all the way through, and it was the perfect timing, right? It was high in my spirit, in my energy to purchase the book a year ago. But I wasn't ready for the material in the book until a year later. The experiences that I had had in that year's time created fertile ground for everything in that book as a next step for that part for me. And that's why we say that the gathering of information, knowledge, and understanding is not first position, really. Once you know, first position is, how do I change the contents of my mind? How do I change my vibration? Because when you change the contents of your mind, you change your vibration. That is what opens you up to greater understanding, higher frequency truths to be able to make their way into your being as a result of your striving to be consistent. That's what allows it in. That's what preps the ground for what's highest and best for you next on your path of growth and expansion within your journey of enlightenment. That's what opens you up to allowing the information in that's perfect for you right now. Right? We may say some things today that you get and you're able to apply right now. But much of what we say, you may not have fertile ground for it at the moment. But in 2 weeks, if it's possible, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, if you come back and you listen to this same material, this same recording, you will get more from it then than you did today. It's because of the experiences that you had based on your first interaction with this material that expanded you. And then when you came back and listened to it again, your ground, your inner being was expanded to the point where you were able to allow in more of the information. And not just more of the information, but the ground of your being was expanded for greater interpretation of the information. You see and hear things that you didn't see and hear before. It's not because you weren't present. It's not because you weren't paying attention. It's because the ground of your being has been expanded a little bit more. You've been opened up a little bit more, so that things make a little more sense when they come into your being. And this is the reason for, we have these interactions to open you up and make you aware of what's possible. But then you can go deeper in the private sessions. You can go deeper in the other offerings that we have. You can go the deepest in the private community, where we're constantly engaged with those individuals with the play and practice. And they're expanding quickly, even though it's not pretty at times. It's uncomfortable at times, but they're expanding a lot more quickly because of the close and consistent engagement. And that's what speeds up the process. It's like you're taking the rubble and you're throwing the rocks out and you're pulling the weeds up every day. Like when I was growing up and we had a garden, and every other day we were in the garden, especially in the summertime, pulling the weeds out so that the seeds that we had planted would have fertile ground to develop and grow into maturity. The play and practice is you pulling the weeds out. Everything that conflicts with your intentions, the resistance that you have within your being, the traumas, the dramas, the things that you've been carrying since you were a child. Reconciling with those things, pulling those things out so that greater light of you can shine through. And you can begin to understand your true authenticity, your true uniqueness. Allowing your gifts and your inspirations to really present themselves, and you be able to see it and begin to be able to act on it without fear. Those are the things that happen when you are truly engaged in the play and practice of releasing and elevating your, intentionally, consciously elevating your vibrational expression. Both of those two things, the changing of the mind, the addressing of the mental framework, and the addressing of your vibrational expression, reaching for higher, those two things culminate as your energy signature, your personal energy signature. That is the ground to that which you are expressing and creating / coming in contact with in the world. So, today's topic is collecting data builds the creative muscle. And before we get started, if you're new and you find value, be sure to subscribe so that you're alerted when we upload new content, so that you're alerted when we are live on this platform again. Check the description for ways that you can connect on a little more deeper level as you are inspired to. We do offer other events and happenings off this platform, and we just kind of mentioned some of our even more deeper offerings that you can engage in when you're inspired. So, collecting data builds the creative muscle is the topic. Are you keeping score with your creations? That's important. Collecting the data and keeping score with your creations. Let's talk about it. Conscious creators. It's important that you keep score, that you're constantly collecting data. when it comes to your creations. And when we say collecting data, we're talking about when we say collecting data, we're talking about being aware of your creations and evaluating the process. We've mentioned this maybe yesterday, maybe the day before. But evaluating the process of creation that you're engaged in. Not whether the experience or any particular experience was good, bad, right, wrong, but evaluating the process. Evaluating the process in which you are engaged in the creation of experience. And the more you do this, the cleaner you will get at it. The more you do this, the more adept you will be at noticing consciously and intentionally. Consciously and intentionally. This is why we say it's important to collect the data, to notice and watch and evaluate in the evenings, at the end, at the conclusion of your days. What did I come in contact with today? Can I remember? And it's not really a can you remember thing, because when you start playing in your meditation, you start playing with the energies and understanding and seeing how you're connected to experience and being open to that idea. You don't have to wrestle with the when. You are evaluating your experiences of the day and you're asking yourself, how did I connect myself to that? That was an excellent experience. And you almost immediately, if you place yourself in meditation, in a meditative state, you almost immediately recognize earlier that day, the day before, maybe last week, when you were expressing in an excellent way, or you were in an energy that was an exact match to the experience that you had. This is alignment. And then you look at another scenario that happened during the day that wasn't that great, undesired in some form or fashion, and you ask yourself, how did I connect to that experience? And the same happens, because the process is the same. Almost immediately, when you ask yourself the question, you become aware of moments in which you were expressing in a way that aligns you with that experience. The feeling was the same. You may have been frustrated with your car, frustrated with your partner, frustrated with the children, frustrated with the job or career, some happenings. And you remember the emotion. You remember how you felt. You remember the weight. You remember the feeling in your chest or the fear in your stomach. And it is an exact match to the happening of the day. You are evaluating the process. You are evaluating who you were being that connected you to the experience based on the feeling. Based on the feeling. You have to understand that faces change. Circumstances change. But inside of your body, you can feel that it's the same situation. It's the same experience, again, by how it's making you feel. You know what it feels like to feel like a victim, to feel helpless, to feel disrespect, to feel dishonored, to feel fear in any kind of way, to feel insecure. You know what it feels like to win. You know what it feels like to be successful. You know what it feels like to be honored. And when an experience shows up and appears in front of you in which you recognize the feeling, there was an expression at some point that aligns you with that experience. And it's interesting that you'll notice, wow, I remember thinking about that and feeling it. I felt that feeling. It was 2 weeks ago. Or I remember thinking in that insecure manner and feeling that feeling this morning. And this experience is a perfect match to that. It's triggering me, inspiring me to feel the exact way that I was feeling this morning. Not even around this circumstance, but in a different circumstance. Because it's about the feeling. And that's why it's powerful not to evaluate from a position of judgment of self, but from a position of the process of creation, the inner process of creation, the creative faculties of your thought patterns, how you feel, because they align you with experience. This is the data that we're talking about. This is the keeping score. And also when we say keeping score, we're talking about the consistency of experience, right? You have traumas. Everyone has. So we can just say traumas. You have traumas, things that are still residing within your energy body, within your mind and body, that occurred when you were a child. These traumas are still resonating. They are resonating, whatever that idea is, and its feeling that happened those so many years ago. And when you look, you can see how these experiences, the feeling, circumstances that are direct matches to the feeling of that experience, have happened with a level of consistency over your entire life. And this is not a place of frustration with those that were involved back then. This is not a place of judgment of the self for not being better, not being more, not being different, not stopping it. This is a reference to the power of your ability to establish a dominant idea and what happens when you do that. No doubt that these circumstances were high emotion. They were highly emotional, right? And the high emotion coupled with the idea is what sowed the idea quickly. Now, if something happened in the home, it's possible that those that were involved in the sowing of the idea, they were of a certain level of vibration and they were exhibiting certain types of behaviors with a level of consistency. And that repetition also served to sow the idea with greater and greater energy. But it's possible. Traumatic events can happen singularly and in an instant with huge emotion attached to them. And they can sow an idea as well, very, very quickly. So no matter which of those scenarios was your experience, the power is in seeing. When an idea becomes dominant within your mind and body, it begins to resonate on its own consistently without your choosing. And it subtly, softly, and yet powerfully continues to manifest as experience with a level of consistency. And that's powerful to know. It's powerful to know, number one, when you begin to cut into the emotion around that idea, you begin to weaken it. And when you begin to weaken that idea from the energy position of that idea, its fuel, the consistency has to become less and less. And the other side is, when you sow an idea, when you sow a new idea, an idea of which you are intentionally choosing, consciously choosing to be, desiring for it to be the source cause of experience moving forward. You know, because you have evaluated, because you have kept score, because you have looked at the connection between your being and experience. You know that when this idea becomes dominant, it will begin to resonate on its own, create an experience. I no longer have to consciously think about it. I no longer have to consciously try. And it is a given. It is a truth that once an idea becomes dominant, the experience will begin to manifest in front of me in the mirror with a level of consistency. My responsibility is to make the idea dominant. And how do you do that? You can do it, and you do it in the same fashion that traumatic events are sown. Big emotion. If you want to do it quickly, it requires you to entertain the idea, the image of the idea, or the image of you being the person, and big emotion. Big energy sows the idea. Benny has made the mistake for years. Not the mistake, we won't say mistake, but what he has done that could have been done in a higher fashion is hold the image, have the image of the intention. Everybody understands that. But because your conditioning says, don't celebrate, it's... How many of you have a challenge with celebrating your successes out loud? With talking to people about how good you do a thing, about how awesome you are. The conditioning says that that's wrong, that there's something wrong with that you're bragging, you're being cocky, that you may make somebody who's not as successful as you feel bad. You may make people uncomfortable. And what it does, it has turned you off to verbalizing and being emotional in a good way about you and about your successes. But it's been okay, it's taught to be okay with talking, communicating about your fears, about your failures, about things that you don't want to happen. Oh, I got to talk about this. I need people to know and to help me and support me. I need people to feel bad for me. I need to figure out how to set up boundaries and to fight and to push. Everybody talks about what they don't want. Everybody fights and pushes against the things they don't desire. Very, very few talk openly and freely about their successes, about their accomplishments, about their wins. Celebrating themselves. Because the conditioning says there's something wrong with it, that there's something wrong with you if you do that. But this is how you sow an idea. Every intention that you have feels good. Every intention that you have is leading you to greater and greater, more wins and greater success in your life. To talk about it openly and freely, even if it's to yourself in the car or in the shower, is a key. Because when you speak the words, you are entertaining the image. Your mind and body is a closed circuit. Understand that. It's a closed circuit. When you begin to think an idea, you only can think in a singular direction at one time. You can't be loving and hating at the same time, right? The idea and the emotion, closed circuit, one thing can be expressed within the body, right? High frequency or lower frequency. You can't do both at the same time. So when you speak on your intention, you see the image because you activate the mind in that direction. If you do it long enough, you start to feel the feeling because you activate the entire inner creative process in that direction. And if this is a new idea, in the same way that a traumatic event can sow an idea immediately, you can sow a new idea immediately. By using high emotion, high energy, and celebrating the idea, even if it's not an experience that you've had yet. But celebrating the state of being sows the idea. Now, if you have anything in you that conflicts with that idea, that has power to it, you may have to repeat the process. If you feel uncomfortable exploding the energy, exploding your voice in the direction of this idea around people, do it in your car with the windows up. But traumatic events can be sown immediately in an instant. And it's because of the high energy, the high emotion. Keeping score on your wins, on your successes, on the experience of high frequency. Keeping score on your experience of low frequency. Does this happen with a level of consistency? Wow, this is an idea. And you ask the question, wow, this idea that connects me with this experience was sown 10, 20, 30 years ago. That's a beautiful thing, how an idea can be made dominant and then consistently create experience for me. So now, what if I do it in the direction of everything that I intend and desire for myself? First states of being, to be beautiful, to be strong, to be confident, right? As you move up the ladder of understanding of the self. To be beautiful, to see yourself as beautiful, to love yourself more, to see yourself as strong, to see yourself as confident, to see yourself as capable, right? Moving up the scale. Sowing those ideas passionately, with determination and resolve, right? You're speaking to you. You're talking to you. You're talking to source. You're talking to your inner being. This is who I intend to be. And you have to do it big enough, bigger than anything you have already inside of you that resists that idea. Otherwise, the conditioning will still be dominant. And the idea is to make your new ideas, your new intentions dominant, which means they have to be bigger, brighter, and have more energy than the fears or than anything that conflicts with that idea. Collecting data. Collecting data for the sake of evaluating the of the frequency of creation, becoming more and more aware that dominant ideas, if you do nothing at all, you can watch and observe how the ideas that are already dominant within your being are resonating without your permission, without your help, and creating experience for you with a level of consistency. Benny used to come in contact with, he doesn't anymore, understand that, he doesn't anymore. But he used to come in contact physically with disrespectful, victimhood type experiences, helpless to experience type experiences. Through family, through strangers, through those older than him, through those his age, through those younger than him, finding himself in experience with individuals younger than him who are expressing in a way that makes him feel helpless or like a victim. These were dominant ideas that were sown when he was a child. Now, he has overcome those through playing in higher frequency, higher energy, continuing to unravel and discover the branches of that idea, working his way back to that idea, cutting into the energy, the emotion around that idea to where the bigness of those experiences doesn't happen anymore. And they used to be very, very big. Right? The bigness of those experiences don't happen anymore. Sometimes subtle, that he feels it's not anything big, not anything unmanageable, but he can get twinged every now and then. He sees it and he immediately floods the light into that area of the body that is presented most of the time. Think about it. Most of the time, this is not a fear or insecurity. This is a heart hit. This is a love hit that happened when he was a child, feeling unloved, feeling unacknowledged, feeling unattended to, those type things. And so the feeling is not down in the gut, it's in the chest area. Sometimes it's over the heart, sometimes it's off center. These make their presence known in the body in certain positions, right? You can identify that position, you can shine the light into that position, but you still want to identify the idea as best you can so that you can work with it directly. And the more you cut into these ideas, if you don't release them completely, because a lot of times they have branches and they're connected to other ideas, but the more you unravel the ideas and address them, the weaker they get if they haven't completely been disintegrated or transformed in a way that they are helping you in your growth and expansion along your journey of enlightenment. And the experience that is resulting from those ideas happens less and less and less because it is weaker and weaker, or either non-existent anymore. When you evaluate and understand the process, this is where you go. This is who you become. An evaluator, a practitioner of release. Not from a place of judgment. You don't want to address your conflict or your inner resistance from a place of frustration. That means you're in the same energy as the idea. You want to do it from a place of love, from a higher frequency place, from a place of acceptance, from a place of acknowledgement, from a place of celebration. Thank you for now I am aware and I can see it. Because there was a time where you couldn't see it. This is why it's important to evaluate. This is why it's important to keep score. And this is why it's important to do it in a high frequency, so that your perception is of a higher frequency than the frequency in which these ideas were born and reside. This is the way you are able to see them fully and not connect with them emotionally. We're thankful for each of you who have supported the creation of this interaction. We are thankful for those of you who have found this recording and allowed us to be of support in that manner. If you have been inspired to an idea, or you have any questions or comments that you would like us to take a few moments on, please place those in the chat and we will do so. All right, let's see. Madeline says, hello, Sabrina. Madeline says, sometimes celebrating aloud brings out jealousy in others. I prefer to be in a confident, self-loving state, and that in itself will bring out a glow in me that is undeniably seen by others around me. Yes. Yes. It's critical that you begin to play and practice more and more with that. Celebrating yourself, right? Because truly you are at the center of your verse. You are truly, even though your physical senses say otherwise, you are truly all that exists in your verse. And you know that when you are sitting in meditation alone in your sacred space, or if every place is a sacred space, every space has become a sacred space for Benny now. He's in the car, he's walking in the woods, he's in the closet, he's in the bedroom, he's downstairs. Every place can be a sacred space. But if you're in your sacred space, you have to get accustomed to celebrating yourself. Not just in thought and mind, because that's what Benny used to do also, but verbally. Verbally, there's something about the voice activation and how it activates the feeling and it activates the mind. The gift of a voice is powerful. Speaking it begins to move the energies, begins to stir the emotion. Speaking it. And it doesn't matter whether it's something that just happened or something you're celebrating that happened years ago. It's about the feeling that you're cultivating. Now, this is also something that you want to do and can do with an intention. Speak it as if it's present now. Go through the experience as if it's present now, utilizing your voice, stirring the emotion, creating the energy around the idea energy structure, knowing that that's the truth of that yields the experience. So you're focusing on that as the truth and not the external experience as the truth, because it's not, it's just an effect. But utilizing the voice to stir and build the emotion. That's excellent. And the more and more you play with that, and the more and more you get down this path of growth and expansion, your journey of enlightenment, you will get to the point where you don't believe in anyone being jealous of you. Right? That's conditioning. The belief that anyone can be jealous of you is conditioning. We have to put that out there also. Right? Because in a high frequency state, expressing higher frequency with a level of consistency, there's no jealousy for you. You don't play in that arena anymore. You don't play that game anymore. All that you express is perfect and amazing for you. All that you come in contact is perfect and amazing for you. That part of the people that you connect with and interact with is perfect and amazing for you. And if you are of the highest frequency, then your frequency is lifting them. And so when they are lifted in your presence, there's no space for jealousy there. The only way jealousy comes in, or the idea of jealousy, is if you're believing in it. Keep walking the path. Keep working your way down. Keep working your way inward. Keep reaching for higher frequency, and you will come to know that for yourself. Not because we said it. It probably feels uncomfortable now. But there's a space where you will get to where you know that that's true. And when you know that that's true and you begin to expect it, the less you come in contact with that part of people. Does that make sense? We hope that makes sense. Let's see. Celebrate self and forgive self if no one realizes I could have done it differently. If you could clarify that just a little bit more. We understand the celebrate self and forgive self. If no now realizes that I could have done it differently. Help us with that. Help us with that. Clarify just a little bit more. Let's see. Madeline. Absolutely correct. When I hear my own voice, I record my own meditations, and the effect is wonderful. Talking to oneself in front of the mirror is also a wonderful way. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're in front of a mirror and you're talking to yourself, look directly into your eyes. Look directly into your eyes as you speak to yourself, and see if you can get to the point where you even forget that you have a body. Look directly into your eyes. That is a powerful way to open yourself up to the truth of you. Yep. That's excellent. That's excellent. Let's see. Anyone else? I'm going to give Zakiah just a few minutes in case the system requires that there's some time lag in between someone being able to place a comment in, and see if they are able to be a little more clear. But if we were to expound on that which we think is being said, yes, okay, here we go. Yes. Okay. I mean, celebrate self and forgive self, even if you realize that you could have done things differently in the past. Yes. But the highest understanding is that the things that were done, the things that were done and said in the vibration of the event. And that's what everybody does until they become aware, right? And now you're in the space, and it's through these conversations, you're becoming more aware that how those happenings, and then judging yourself for being that, keeps you in that loop of low vibration. For judgment is in that same feeling. You see how people stay in the same feeling? They stay, even in their trying to do and be better, They're still operating in the same level of vibration. Yes, I did that, and oh man, I really hate myself for doing that. I shouldn't have done that. You're still in the same vibration. You're still in the same frequency. When you get into a higher vibrational state and you look at that circumstance, you see that I was thinking, speaking, being exactly who I was in that vibration. Now that I can see it, it's beautiful because I see how powerful the vibration is. In the vibration, in the energy state, are the thoughts, are the feelings, the emotions, are the words, and are the actions. And then you begin to play with it from that higher state that you were perceiving this circumstance from. And you say, okay, if I was in this frequency state, if this experience happened and say I had just come out of an amazing movie where I had an excellent time and I'm excited and all of those things, and then I placed myself in this experience, I would be a completely different person. There would be different thoughts. There would be different emotions. There would be different words. There would be different behaviors from me. Why? Because of the energy that I was in. And now because you're in a higher energy looking at this circumstance, you're not judging yourself. You're saying, wow, that's powerful how that works. You see how you're evaluating the process? That's powerful how that works. So the key for me is to be in the highest frequency that I can. The key for me is if I feel I'm in a lower frequency in an experience, is to get myself as much higher as I can so I can perceive from a higher place. Forgive yourself. Yeah, you can use those words. But let's just jump. Instead of taking time to forgive and all of those things, just jump into a higher frequency and be that person. Be that person. Because you're talking to you. You're the truth of you. You're all that exists. You're at the center of your verse. So you really don't have to forgive yourself. You really don't have to apologize to yourself. You definitely don't have to apologize to anything outside of you. Right? This is who I was. This is who I'm intended to be. Jump and play there as much and as often and as frequent as you can to make that state of being more and more dominant. Let's just do that. Awesome. Anyone else? Let's see. If I am the generator of my thoughts, then we're assuming am I also the generator of my feelings, right? Yes. Yes. And the truth is the feeling comes first. Often. The feeling that you're in or that you create for yourself dictates the types of thoughts. Thoughts are different. Thoughts are different based on the feeling that you're in. Right? If you're in a high frequency, you have certain types of thoughts. If you're in a lower frequency, you have certain types of thoughts. Benny catches himself all the time now. Wow, that's a weird thought. Thought of danger when he's driving. Thoughts of undesired happenings when he considers his children and they're off doing their thing and they're driving or they're gone on a trip or something. And he immediately switches it. And he doesn't try to wrestle with the thought. He gets himself into a higher feeling state. And in a higher feeling state, he says things like, I hope they're having the most amazing time. There's no fear in there. I hope they're having the amazing time. I hope they're having fun with their friends. There's no fear in there. That's the highest thing. Have we ever said this to you guys? We've said it, but the highest thing that you can do for your children is to tell them to have the best time. Have fun. Have an amazing time. Have an excellent time. Make it brilliant. What are you doing? It's not about the words. It's not about the words. It's sowing the feeling. Because if you understand that the feeling goes before them and lays the foundation for experience, then you want your children to be in the highest state possible. And instead of saying that, get yourself into a high state. You want to be in a high state. Instead of saying that, make them feel good. Tell them to have an amazing time. Tell them to have fun. There can't be any fear in you in order to sow that level of frequency into them. That's how you protect your children. By offering, intending, placing them in a high frequency state. Because whether they're conscious of what you're doing or not, if you get them into a high state, when you give them a hug and you tell them you love them, you tell them to have fun, you tell them make it the best of days, it's going to be the best of days. I know it was the best of days. Let's talk about it when you get home. You put them in that state of offering that frequency. And if that frequency, if you know and believe and trust that the frequency goes before them, then you have protected them by lacing their day in that frequency. Now, will they get bumped and tossed? Sure. They're not as adept as you. They're probably not on this path like you are, but that doesn't change the fact that you influenced their frequency in that moment, and it went before them. Anything else? Anyone else? So it is very important to constantly maintain the higher state that the thoughts that attract are good feeling thoughts. Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. Now, don't make this a work thing. Make it a play thing. Because the more you interact and play and practice with getting yourself into a higher frequency, you're conditioning your mind and body to that. So play with it. Make it playful. Make it fun. Make it a game. Whatever that means to you. Benny's got his phone. Well, it just went off a minute ago, but he's got his phone set now. Every 30 minutes, he gets himself into a state where he's seeing his energy centers, chakras, if you want to say. He likes saying energy centers more so. His energy centers, and he's the awareness behind those centers, and he is flooding the light through each center and seeing it flowing fully and freely through each center, wide open, to the point where it looks like just one brilliant star. And then he turns the volume up on it a little bit, and he can feel his body vibrating. Just as you start feeling emotional, right, and you can feel the emotion, he turns the volume up until he feels his body start to vibrate based on it, the reaction in the body of the energy work. And you can do the same thing. If you hear this recording and you sit down in meditation and play with what we're saying right now, you can do the same thing for yourself. And he sees that light flooding through these centers and making its way through the body, healing, creating well-being, but also flushing out anything that resists that pure flow of source energy through his energy centers. And he knows this is a reactionary process through the body, so he's doing it consistently. And he knows and believes and trusts that the light flooding through those centers is burning away inconsistencies, burning away any resistance or conflict that is held within the mind and body that is represented there. He's trusting that that's happening. Whether he's fully aware of the ideas that are being released or not, he's trusting that it is happening, and he's just doing it consistently throughout the day. It's to the point now where it doesn't take long. Sometimes it's a challenge to focus based on what he's got going on and things he's entertaining in the mind. Sometimes it's challenging to focus and to get it just right, and sometimes it's easy. But he's doing it as a practice. Now, a month ago he wasn't doing this, but now he is. He's inspired to do this now. So he's doing it now. Trusting that the reason for doing it is effective. Anyone else? Excellent. Excellent. So once again, thank you, everyone who has participated in the creation of this interaction. We see and feel your vibration, and we convey our knowledge, our understanding in alignment with that as best we can. Thankful for those of you who have found this recording and allowed us to be of support in that fashion. If you have listened, if you have been here the whole time, or you have found this recording and you have listened to this recording all the way through, you are who we are here for. We love you very much. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. We will talk to you soon. Have a fantastic day. Intend a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.